This is the Srixon ZX5 LS. It's a major winning driver and it generally is a very good bit of kit. However, how much better or worse or different is the ZXi LS? So a few things about the ZX5 LS is that we've got a weight at the front of the head. We've got a weight right over here. And when we have that, it generally increases ball speed for those golfers that hit the ball off the middle of the face more often. And it launches lower with a little bit less spin. When we look at the club from the top in the ZX5 LS, we can see some graphics on the top here and a nice matte black finish. One of the lower lofted heads is a 9.5 and it comes with an adjustable adapter that we can go up and down 1 degree. But we come into the ZXi LS. It's the low spin version, so it's got the same characteristics as the previous model, but it does it slightly differently. We've got a weight at the front of the head here and we've also got a weight port at the back. On the old one, it didn't tell us what this weight is, but when you take it out, and because you can't swap it round with any other weights, it doesn't really matter as such. But we've got 8 grams there that's at the front of the head, and you probably can get different weights for that if you wanted to, but it's not really the done thing. In the ZXi LS, it's got the weight written on there, which is nice and helpful. We've got 10 grams at the front, and then we've got 4 grams at the back. And I've done another video on what the difference is when you put that front to back, so please do have a look at that. And again, I've done another video on the adapter, but we've got 1.5 degrees of up and down, and then the flatter setting has a little bit more meat to it. So we go flatter, but we go even flatter because there's more variation in these new adapters. So on this new club as well, we've got a little bit more of a carbon fibre. Oh, that's got some bumps to it. Slightly different pattern on here, but no writing around the edges, so it doesn't quite give you any visual graphics that engulf the ball. A couple of new features on the club face, which is iFlex, which I haven't actually read into yet, but I'd imagine there's some AI technology influence on there, because you do have AI technology on the Cleveland drivers, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's on here. We still have the rebound frame technology on here. Basically, if one thing flexes and releases, it's going to create some ball speed. If you get 2 things next to each other, flexing and releasing, you get 2 components encouraging more ball speed. So in the new driver, we've got the Gen 5 HZRDUS black shaft, and in the older driver, we have the HZRDUS black as well, but this is the Gen 4, and there is a difference in these shafts, so that's going to affect what these clubs do with each other, as well as the differences in the head. I have done a video on just the shafts. If you want to go and check that out, be my guest. But let's have a few whacks with the ZXi first. I'm using both of these on the standard loft settings because it's not fair that I can reduce the loft on this even more. Standard loft on the ZX5 LS is 9.5. Standard loft on the new one is 9 degrees. So we've got a little bit less loft on paper. Now ideally I could do with a slightly different shaft, a slightly stiffer shaft. I could do with a little bit less loft, I think, although I haven't had a proper fitting on these yet. But they go very, very nicely. That'll do, wouldn't it? Loads of carry, nice shape. I reckon I could eke a little bit more out of that if I just test out a few different lofts and settings. And because I tend to move the ball to the left-hand side a little bit easier, I do like going lower loft in the setting of the head because it makes the face sit a little bit more open. But straight off the bat, I will absolutely take that. Oh, I got that a little bit high off the toe. Lost my balance a little bit. It's in the fairway. It's way down on carry. Got a little bit excited. I have teed this up really high so I can basically try and wang it right out there. And that was a misstrike off the heel as well. Still carrying loads. Nice. In the left rough though. So let's bang a few of these and then I'll jump over to the older model. Tidy. Oh, nice. And I want you to try and listen for the sound, because the sound has been one factor that maybe doesn't quite sound or feel as good as other drivers on the market. A few drivers with that duller, deader sound, like the Callaway and the Ping, for example, that feel more powerful, but actually when you look at the statistics and the data, they're still pretty much the same. And it does look absolutely delightful behind the balls. So there's the LS version of this driver, and I'm comparing it to the ZX5 LS. There are 2 other models as well. There's the ZXi, which is the standard one in the middle, and then I think it's ZXi Max, which will be like a more draw bias version of the driver. So we're sort of falling in line with what other brands do. We're sort of doing things in the Srixon lineup that basically match like Ping's model. Cobra do it as well, where you've got the standard model and you've got a lower launching one, and then you've got a more draw bias version, just to suit a bigger pool of golfers. think this is doing just fine. We're going to get what we get. Go and get the fairway. Oh, I just want to put the loft down on it a bit. But behind the ball, they look quite similar. The old one over here has that graphic on the top that just kind of like envelopes the ball a little bit differently. And then we don't have that on here, so it just looks maybe a little bit cleaner. I don't mind either way. That pattern on the top is really cool though. So now we go back to last year's ZX5 LS. Call that a little bit thin and heely. Landing in same sort of area as the new one on that same sort of strike. Now what I think as well is that I hit the new one just a little bit too high because that shaft is kicking the ball up a bit more. Again, I've done another comparison video. The Gen 4 HZRDUS Black does launch a little bit lower peak height, lower spin, and I think that in terms of efficiency is better for me. So I could do with going in a stiffer shaft or a lower loft in the new version. So I'm predicting that actually the old one for me, 9.5 stiff or 9 stiff off the shelf would be a better option. But in terms of custom fitting, I think I could get more out of the new one, but we'll see. I still hit a couple like 320 in the new one, which is nice. Nice high draw. Again, that's my normal sort of shape. In the fairway. Nice. And we saw the likes of Brooks Koepka use these to good effect. And there's a few tour wins using this driver now. I tried too hard on that. I think there's one bad one on each driver to take out, because that is definitely in the trees. Oh, top of the face. Is there any difference on the depth of the face? Because if this has got a shallower face, looks about the same depth, same size, looks about the same sort of surface area as such. I did notice like the Callaway AI Smoke Triple Diamond had a deeper face, so I felt like I had a bit more surface area at the top to sort of like almost catch a few more dimples on those higher strikes on the face. And while I'm teeing it up this high as well, I'm not surprised I've just caught one right up there. And then munch one down the middle. .309, not bad. Yeah, good. Feels good. I think I prefer the noise of the new one. Although some could say it's a little bit tinny. So I'm just going to do one more with the new one. I'm just listening for what it sounds like. No, it sounds solid. It's got a little ring to it, but a ring boof, instead of like a tinny yeah sort of noise. I'm chatting rubbish now. Let's have a look at the data. So on here I've called that down the left hand side ZXi7. It's actually just ZXi or ZXi LS. There's one really bad shot to take out of each driver, which is top right here, 275 carry. That was just a bad strike. And then I had one with the ZX5 LS that went straight up in the air, 243, just a big old sky shot. So subtle difference here is the peak height. So the peak height is 112 on the old driver, 108 down there on the new driver, so slightly lower on the new driver actually, which is interesting because the shaft actually launched higher when I only hit the shaft. Angle of descent is exactly the same, so the angle these drivers are coming in at is the same. Ooh, we're looking similar in a lot of aspects. So club data, so this is what I did, this is my delivery. So in to out 1.2, 1.4, my in to out path averaged out to be the same. I've hit up on the old driver just a little bit more, and in terms of swing speed I actually swung the new one slower. So the new one is 112.4 against 113.1. If the new driver is flying better, it's not doing it because I'm faster. Oh, whoa. So up here, dispersion ring much tighter in the new driver. That's interesting. Ball speed we're getting a little bit more, and launch angle we're a little bit lower actually. So lower launch angle even though the shaft toe to toe launched higher. So lots to be said for that head being lower launching. Again, we've got 10 grams behind the face instead of 8 grams. That could contribute to it a little bit, but we've got 292 against 287, and it's a tighter variation. So 4 yards of variation against 6 yards of variation. And I swung it slower, so I'm getting more out of that new driver even though I didn't have as much pace into it. But spin rates on both of them are nice and low, 2,100 to 200, around that area. I quite like that. But very soon I'm going to be fitted for the new driver, so I will put a video about that on the channel We'll have a look at different lofts, different shafts to see if I can eke more out of the driver, just to see if I can maximise its performance. And generally it's just fun to sort of see what the difference is between different things that we try out in that process. Stick around, have a look at a few other videos, and I'll see you on them.